Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk at length about this new Project Highland update. We're going to dive into that in about 5 minutes. So just to get ready for this, there's a whole bunch of details that I've learned about Project Highland I want to get into. Before we get into that, I want to mention that you can support me here as a YouTube channel member. You can support me on the Locals platform, which is what we're about to talk about. You can support me as a Twitter or X subscriber, and you can support me on Patreon. One of the benefits of supporting me is when I do my live streams, I ask my supporters, hey, do you have anything you want me to talk about in the live stream? So here's 3 things they wanted to talk about. Stephen Gillis said, how many total transportation miles will Boring Company have by 2030 or 2035? That is something I'm going to talk about later in the video. But the short answer is a heck of a lot more than people realize. I'm going to dive somewhat deep into the Boring Company later in the video after we talk about Project Highland. Project Highland is coming. We're going to talk about Project Highland first. Exciting stuff about Project Highland. Chokunen, which is, I believe, my friend in Tokyo, says, how long do legacy auto manufacturers have before they start showing declines in earnings? That's a challenging one. I mean, I think we're already seeing declines in earnings for some legacy auto manufacturers. There's sort of weird things happening in the market, but as Tesla grows, as other EV makers grow, I think Rivian may start growing and may start taking market share. Maybe some of the Chinese companies are going to start succeeding more. And if we start to see more success like that, that's when. But, Tesla, 2 million this year, 3 million next year, maybe 5 million in a couple years. It takes a little while for that to be a significant dent in the auto market. And I think Cybertruck starts to hit on corporate profits for Ford and General Motors in particular, and Ram, Stellantis. But again, Cybertruck isn't going to be fully ramped until 2025. So the impact on earnings is going to take a while. So, and then the last thing, maybe delve into what finance models you think Tesla uses to get paid for their power installation battery energy storage system. I don't think Tesla calls it that. I think that's Lucid's name for their battery energy storage system. I know you covered some with James, but I mean, $350 million project paid in 1 year over 30. I think the bulk of the cost is paid up front. This is about megapacks, that Tesla delivers megapacks to customers. There are small scale installations where somebody might order 1 or 2 megapacks and they probably get paid up front for that. There are some much larger installations that are done at utilities where they may install 100 megapacks. I'm making up the number, but it appears that there's a project, set of contracts of how that's done, and that's a good thing to explore. And I don't have the answer yet, and I don't want to speculate, but I do think there's something interesting there. There's some of it is just maintenance, X dollars per year, but that number is not particularly big. I think it tends to be, a lot of it's up front, and then there's some performance targets they have to meet over time, and some of them they set up to 25 years, but I think that was the maintenance side of it. So, all right. So with that said, and just again, please consider supporting me on those platforms. Please consider buying the t-shirts at elonbits.com, stainless steel water bottles, etc. I want to dive into this Project Highland tweet. So I did a tweet here. Now, for those who follow me extensively, I've been a big critic of Project Highland. And I still am. I think the Project Highland story is dubious at best. And I think if you look through here, what did I say? Project Highland update from a top Tesla insider. I don't really have great contacts with top Tesla insiders. I have had contacts with some significant Tesla insiders. I'm not going to deny that. I have a cell phone number, and I have texted back and forth with one particular insider. I'm connected with one or with another one. Elon replies to me on Twitter. I have some limited contact with top Tesla. They're not feeding me information. I'm not someone that Drew Baglino or Martin Vieca or Zach Kirkhorn or whatever. They're not reaching out. Hey Warren, we want you to. Elon's not. Quietly. Hey Warren, pump this story out. That's not happening. So if I ever tell you I have an update from a top Tesla insider, number one, I have spoken with top Tesla insiders about things before, and I have never publicized what they've told me. So if somebody tells you I talked to a top Tesla insider and they told me this, that probably would violate the Tesla executive's obligation not to reveal substantive information without leaking. There's probably like securities law violations if a top Tesla insider did that. And I have had conversations with people I consider, not just people I consider, people I know are very high up at Tesla. And I don't tell you guys what they tell me. I might hint later at some point, hey, I had a conversation with somebody. That would be like 6 months later. I might reveal something that somebody told me. So yeah, if I think it's something that is supposed to be, let's keep this quiet, even if they don't tell me that, if it just feels like it, I'm not going to report that. There are other people who will, have a conversation with somebody and, make up stories or tell stories about it. And I tend to think that Tesla, top insiders, if they tell you something like that, they're testing to see whether you're going to reveal their confidence. They're not telling you the truth. They're just testing to see where you'll go with it. That's a theory. Okay, so here's my list of things that aren't really happening with Project Highland. First of all, Giga Castings is structural 69 kilowatt hour pack. The 69 kilowatt hour pack should have been a dead giveaway. I frequently hear people saying that Model 3 Project Highland is going to have Giga Castings, front and rear castings, whatever. We haven't had a report from a drone pilot. Wuwa drones, the Shanghai factory. There's drones over the Fremont factory. And when they deliver a gigapress to a factory, it takes a while, and it's obvious because it's really large objects. And we haven't seen any reports of new gigapresses showing up at Giga Shanghai or Giga Fremont or Tesla Fremont. So how would they be doing gigacastings for additional vehicles at Shanghai or Fremont if they don't have new gigapresses? Oh, well, they're using the ones from Model Y. Let me get this straight. Model Y is... The demand is so low for Model Y, they have free time on the gigapresses so they can make hundreds of thousands of extra castings with the Model Y presses. That's not credible. Okay, so that's number one. CATL M3P cells. Look, I think it's very possible that there will be a version of Model 3 released, or Model 3 will start using these new cells. This is the real thing. CATL M3P cells, these are lithium iron phosphate cells with manganese in them. That they're supposed to have added energy density. This is something we think is pretty real. I don't know how quickly CATL can ramp production of these, but it's very I think it's somewhat likely we're going to see these M3P cells in some Teslas soon, and it certainly could be Model 3. FSD hardware 4 with HD radar. Well, every Tesla is going to get FSD hardware 4. HD radar so far has not been seen in any of the vehicles that have been seen to have what appear to be hardware 4 cameras on them. I think there was a teardown or somebody got inside and there's no radar yet. Will they at some point use HD radar? Maybe. I don't think so. I think they've been pretty clear that they think vision is the solution and they're working on vision and that's it. So FSD beta version 12.3. That should have been an obvious giveaway as well. They barely started with FSD beta version 12. Elon has an alpha version of it on his car. Why would it be 12.3? Elon said that version 12 wouldn't be beta. Why would it matter? Like when FSD beta is ready, every car is going to get version 12 and version 12.3 or whatever. So that was just silly. 800 volt powertrain with 48 volt low voltage architecture. I think that's actually possible, but I don't think they're doing that. I think that requires a lot of the things that you hear people saying about Project Highland require more than a refresh. And the Giga castings and structural pack, you're getting to the point where you got to redesign the whole car, which is what I think they should do with Model 3 in a year or two. I think we should see a total redesign of Model 3 from the ground up with 800 volt or 1000 volt powertrain. Because it wouldn't be 800 volt, by the way, because they went to 1000 volt on Cybertruck. And there's a lot of advantages to the 1000 volt powertrain, particularly thinner wires, less wiring mass, new wiring layouts. But again, if you're going to do new wiring layouts, you might as well redesign the car. And I think I genuinely think that, a couple of years we're going to hear that Tesla is doing a total redesign of Model 3 and Model Y and Model S and Model X, using all the innovations they've developed with Cybertruck, next generation vehicle, etc. But it's a couple years away. It's not yet. Zero rare earth and low silicon carbide motors. This one's actually possible. I mean, they've said they're doing that for the next generation vehicle platform. I think it's a little early to see the zero rare earth and low silicon carbide motors. That's really going in the next generation vehicle platform, which is next year. It may very well be they found ways to reduce rare earths and silicon carbide in the motors and the powertrain, and that may happen. So, no, the 420 range isn't real. Come on, we're getting there. This is the one, very few people, I'm going to go through some comments, very few people caught the biophosphorescent headlights and taillights. That's just mumbo jumbo. Like, I can't believe nobody, people were like, they caught little details and nobody caught the biophosphorescent headlights and tail. I just made that up. Because there's a lot of talk about new headlights and taillights. Why would they be biophosphorescent? How did people not pick that one up? And there's a point here, which is this tweet. I wanted to mention this. This tweet on Twitter got massive response. It shows 116,000 views right now, but last time I checked, it was 140,000. It's probably over 150,000 already in 4 hours. This tweet is going borderline viral. My YouTube post, not video, but post, also is getting a lot of response. There's a problem here where people want to believe. If you tell people news that looks like good news, and this is something I would encourage people to watch out for, and it's something we're all vulnerable to, is people want to believe in good news. They want to believe the story. Tell them a story, and great storytellers succeed in getting views, in getting engagement. Do you succeed in informing people and educating people? I'm not so sure about that. To some extent, I think Elon's a good storyteller. Steve Jobs is a good storyteller. They eventually delivered on their stories. So I think there's something about being a YouTuber. Here I am as a YouTuber, and I put a catchy thumbnail up, and I'm telling people about Project Highland, and I'm getting more views. I'm getting more views on Twitter. If you tell a story, Connecting the Dots told is the first one, I think, who told the Highland story. And it was baloney, but people bought it because you want to believe in the story. When the Plaid's Model S refresh was coming out, we all told ourselves a lot of amazing things that were going to happen with the Plaid and with Model S, and we were wrong about a lot of it. We got carried away. We need to not get carried away. So I want to encourage people. There's critical thinking is a big focus of my channel, Critical Enthusiasm. You want to have critical thinking, but you want to be positive. So Critical Enthusiasm, that's the elonbits.com store name, is Critical Enthusiasm. I want to encourage people to be enthusiastic, but you also have to deploy critical thinking. And I think like the fact that this tweet got so much positive response is an example of how people will believe what they want to believe, right? Okay, ambient interior lighting. I actually got this as a tip from someone who claimed to be a Tesla insider. Not a high-level Tesla insider, but somebody who works in a factory somewhere said, oh yeah, we're installing an ambient lighting in the interior of the Tesla. I don't know why anybody would care about ambient interior lighting. Is that really a big deal? I don't know. Is that a game changer? Is that going to make somebody buy a Model 3? Does that lower the cost of manufacturing a Model 3? I don't get it. But anyway, that was actually a tip from somebody who purported to be from Tesla. I have no way of verifying whether somebody's actually from Tesla or not. And I want to be clear also, I get tips. I get contacted from people who say they're with Tesla. I never know whether they're real or not. I don't know how to verify. There was one in particular who kept feeding me stuff, and I looked him up, and I was pretty sure it was really this guy who worked in Tesla Fremont. Or maybe, I think he worked in Tesla Fremont. Maybe he worked in Tesla Nevada. But like it just wasn't, like, you get to this point where, like, how credible is it? And for me, unless I have really credible sources and I have multiple sources and I find the story credible, I'm not going to go and tell you a story that I don't think is necessarily true. Vegan silk seating surfaces. That one should have been obvious. Not many people noticed that. Transparent aluminum windows. People caught that one. That's a Star Trek reference. There apparently is something called transparent aluminum. It's not likely to be in windows on a car. And it is a Star Trek reference. Mr. Scott, they go back in time, and Mr. Scott gives some guy the formula for transparent aluminum so they can make an enclosure for the whales in the starship. It's just silly. AI LLM driven voice interface. Yeah, that one should have been obvious too. It's too soon. I'm not saying it's not coming, but it's not coming yet. And if there was going to be an AI LLM driven voice interface, then it would be in Model S and X already. Why would they wait? 420 miles of range should have been a dead giveaway. And especially when you think about 420 mile range and a 69 kilowatt hour pack. That's like 6 miles a kilowatt hour. The best Model 3 right now does about 4.5 or 4.6 miles a kilowatt hour. The best electric vehicle, if you believe Lucid story, maybe they're getting close to 5 miles a kilowatt hour, or 4.6 or 4.7 miles a kilowatt hour. Getting to 6 miles a kilowatt hour is a stretch. I am optimistic that the next generation vehicle will come close to 6 miles a kilowatt hour, but it's really hard to get there. You got to get your weight down. You got your frontal surface area down. You got a great coefficient of drag. You got to have super efficient motors. The things you got to put together to get to 6 miles a kilowatt hour. And, when I make my pod car, I'm targeting 20 miles a kilowatt hour, but the frontal surface area is dramatically lower. That's, there's keys, and the weight is dramatically lower on the pod car. And I'm not sure I can deliver 20 miles a kilowatt hour, but it's a good target to shoot for. But anyway, 420 miles of range, that's classic. Curb weight, 3,600 pounds, made it up. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think Tesla could deliver a Model 3 with 3,600 pounds. If they find ways of saving weight on the platform, I think they're around 3,800 now on the lowest end Model 3. So if they were able to, get more efficient battery architecture, so they get more energy density, so the batteries weigh less for the same amount of battery. But I think 69 kilowatt hours is larger than the 3,800 pound vehicle. So I don't think that would work. MSRP 29,990. I want to talk about this for a second. Pricing. So, thank you, Lord Inquisitor, for buying the shirt. So when you look at the next generation vehicle platform, some people are saying it's going to be a $25,000 vehicle. I think the next generation vehicle is going to be a $20,000 vehicle, just to be clear. And I should just really quick, I want to mention at the top of the chat, and maybe I didn't put it in the video description, but at the Daily Live, warrenredlick.locals.com, I'm going to do another live stream at 2 p.m. I do this every week. I'm going to talk about Joe Biden. I'm not going to be very positive about Joe Biden. I'm going to talk about presidential politics. I tend not to talk about that topic on YouTube. So if you want to hear some thoughts about Joe Biden, and if there's a clip of him recently, there's a lot of clips of Joe Biden. So I'm going to go over that clip and talk about what's going on with Joe Biden, what's going on with the presidential election. Okay. But 29,990, if the next generation vehicle is going to be 25,000, and it's going to be a lot smaller than Model 3, then you're going to have trouble selling the next generation vehicle platform because Model 3 is, cramping it too tight. Now, I think the next generation vehicle platform is going to get down to $20,000. And I think that Model 3, when you totally redesign it, when they totally re-engineer Model 3, they'll be able to get down to an MSRP, a US MSRP of under $30,000. But it needs a total redesign. It needs a total re-engineering of the platform. I don't think they can squeeze that much cost out of the Model 3 platform to get the price down under $30,000. I just don't think that's attainable. Right now, it's about $40,000 US. Maybe, you get it on sale for $38,000 as they're trying to clear inventory. I don't buy it. And there was a shot, I just saw today, there's a account called like TeslaChan, a Chinese account showing pictures of some cars in the Giga Shanghai parking lot covered, and he says those are Highland. Speculating those are Highland. Oh yeah, and then the other dead giveaway, deliveries begin September 31, 2023. There is no September 31. September only has 30 days. So I hope people understand that this, I want to go through the comments. So the comments on it, and number one, like I said, this got a lot of views. I haven't checked since I started this video, but it's up to around 150,000 impressions or views on Twitter, on X, aka the platform formerly known as Titter. So I got a lot of comments on the YouTube post. Warren, are you trolling us? I thought you didn't believe in the Highland Project. I still don't believe in the Highland Project. I will admit, I think there's a lot of, there's so many people who believe in Highland that, it's hard not to believe in Highland at this point, but I just feel like we haven't seen anything substantial. There's been pictures, just Tesla Raj, one of my favorite Twitter accounts, one of my favorite people in the Tesla community, tweeted a picture that was supposedly the interior of Highland, and then he deleted it and said, oh, I was wrong. There's so many questions that are out. No, Hardware 3 is still at Google. Hardware 3 is still in some new cars. We think that Hardware 4 is coming and will be distributed across the entire Tesla platform, not specifically to Model 3 Project Highland. We think it's already in Model S and Model X and Model Y, and we'll probably be rolling out Model 3 soon. I don't think it requires entire redesign of Model 3 to get Hardware 4 in. Here's somebody who says the rear with the new light layout is perfection. That's just so you can see the new light layout. They're not doing that. Aqua Velva says there will be a major M3 refresh. Production costs will be reduced, but sale price will be higher initially due to demand. No, there's no. This is one of the problems that people don't get with Model 3. Model 3 doesn't have the demand that you want to have. The sedan platform is dying. I should mention, by the way, on X, aka Twitter, or Titter, the platform formerly known as Titter, I did a 4-hour space, which is kind of like a Zoom call with no video. And for the first, I think, hour and a half or 2 hours of it, I interviewed an account named Motorhead on X, aka Titter. Brad Munchin is the name on the account. And he's a Tesla bear, a short, but he believes Highland is real, and I believe Highland isn't real. So it was a really interesting back and forth. Started off just going about Highland, and then we started diving into his bear thesis on Tesla, and he totally flopped. He was terrible. He made absolutely no sense. It was funny to talk about. I may end up meeting up with him sometime in the future, but just not realistic. And I thought that was an engaging conversation, and we ended up going for 4 hours and a lot of topics that we covered. And I'm planning to do more of these X spaces, formerly known as Titter, Twitter. And they're planning on doing more X spaces in the future, probably once a week, probably for about 4 hours, covering wide-ranging topics, but focused. I feel like there's a lot of talk, like short term. Is Highland coming this week? Is Highland coming next week? What's the stock going to do today? What's the stock going to do this week? And I'm really excited about the future. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be talking about the Boring Company and Neuralink and what a bright future we have coming in a variety of ways. And my focus, rather than obsessing about why did Zach Kirkhorn leave. By the way, if you didn't catch it, apparently Zach Kirkhorn is leaving Tesla with close to $600 million in stock and options. His net worth is probably over $600 million at this point. It could be understandable. The guy might not want to spend 80 hours a week working at a company when he's already got this much money, when they probably can get by without him. And I still have the theory that he's going to get a CEO job, but he's so wealthy now, it may be he's got a startup in mind that he wants to pursue. Jim Whitehead said, why did Elon change Twitter to X? Is it because it's easier to remember a letter when he builds his financial empire under X? I think X is, the most popular letter, and I think it's a rebranding that the Twitter brand was tarnished. It's so funny that people were complaining that Elon's destroying the brand when they said Elon was destroying the brand when he bought Twitter. Like they can't make up their minds, but it's how many users did they lose by shifting to X? None. They're gaining users. They got attention for it. It's silly. Oh, I left Hatchback out of my feature list. I probably should have included Hatchback in my feature list. So, here's a Tom Positive. Looks very much charming and modern. Sounds too good to be true. Yes, it does. Elon's got some competition for Troll of the Year. Thank you. I don't think I'm competition, but I'm trying. I hope this is satire. If not, either Model 3 resale values will crash or an informant gets smoked out. Yeah, I do think that, first of all, Model 3 resale values are already down. Tesla resale values in general are down. The market is down. The interest rates are up. The economy is struggling. There's some promising signs, but there's a lot of negative signs. And the car market as a whole is struggling. And I personally think that Model 3 is caught in this pinch between Model S at the upper end, Model Y just above it, and this next generation vehicle platform coming. And there's just not a lot of room for Model 3 to succeed in that environment. I'm Heisenberg. Thank you. Am I uncertain? They all went to Threads. Yes, they all went to Threads. That's right. Ken says, no way, they'll have to give away the old Model 3. They're already giving away cars. If you have a Tesla right now, go to the Tesla website and find out what your trade-in value is. Go look on the used Tesla's website and see what they're selling for. It's hard to sell a used Tesla at this point. What do I think of Vanguard and BlackRock having these massive amount of shares? Does that concern you at all? It doesn't concern me about Tesla because they don't have enough to take control of Tesla. I do think they have an unusually disproportionate amount of control. Vanguard, BlackRock, Fidelity, there's a few others. These large funds that have more control than they should have over a lot of companies in America. I'm concerned about that. And they don't represent the interests of the people who they're holding stock for. They don't represent them well. So, keep this inanity on X, please. I do try to keep my silliness on X rather than on YouTube, but I decided to break it for this one. Robert says, lines up with my sources, transparent aluminum windows. Okay, so I think he got it. He's on the joke. Brian Roshetsky says, I just hope the price comes in higher. Okay. Vicious troll, yes. This is even close to accurate. This will be the catalyst that will eclipse the 2020 stock run-up. No, Model 3 is not the game changer. Model 3 is not a game changer for Tesla's future. Model 3 was the game changer for Tesla in the past. I'm not saying Model 3 is dead. I think there's a future for Model 3 or for the next generation Model 3, which would be built in a couple of years. But there's just not room for Model 3 to succeed. Now, it may be that when Cybertruck actually hits the roads, Cybertruck is the kind of vehicle that may really, massively increase demand for Tesla, right? It may be that that's the kind of thing that when you have a new Tesla come along, so Model Y comes along, it drives up interest in Tesla generally, and maybe it sells a few more Model X's or a few more Model S's. There's a cross effect, right? You were thinking about buying a Model X, but now Model Y is available. Model Y satisfies things you wanted in a Tesla, and you don't need to go buy the more expensive vehicle, so it undercuts it. Model X undercut or overcut Model S. Model 3 undercut Model S. Model Y is taking sales, I think, from Model 3. And I think that, the next generation vehicle is going to cannibalize Model 3 sales as well. At the same time, if you generate more interest in Tesla, the brand, if Cybertruck generates more interest in Tesla, the brand, that could raise all boats. That could raise the water for all boats, so we sell more of everything. So we'll see. Will you read Isaacson's book, When Will Rocket Fly? I don't know Isaacson's book When Will Rocket Fly. I have an order in for his book on, or maybe that's two questions. And thank you for your support, by the way. 472 Water. If you want to, you can support me on the channel by donating money in the chat. I really appreciate those. They're called super chats. I have an order in for Isaacson's book on Elon Musk. When will rocket fly? I think Starship's going to have another flight in a month or so. Hard to tell. I don't know that there's a lot of things left holding it up. I mean, they had 4 engines didn't fire or terminated prematurely in the static fire, so they've got to figure out what happened there. But I think that's a small problem that they'll figure out. Yes, Brian Keck says 9 Cybertrucks found in the delivery lot. Yeah, I think that was Joe Tetmeyer. There's some promising signs that something's happened with Cybertruck, that Cybertruck may come earlier rather than later. I don't think so. I think they're still testing Cybertruck manufacturing, and they're not ready to do actual vehicles to deliver to customers yet. But I think, I mean, I'm leaving town in a couple of weeks. And by the way, if you don't know this, I'm moving to Japan in about 2 weeks. I'm moving to Japan. So that's going to have a change. That's going to affect how I do videos. I'm probably going to change the time of Sunday Live. I'm not sure about that. Probably going to change the time of Sunday Live, and probably lead some other changes. I'll probably make some Japan-related content along with what I'm doing. Okay, so Arvinder Goomer got the joke. 420 miles, September 31st. Not worth the upgrade. Okay. Transparent aluminum, Business Insider India. I think that's intended to be a joke. Are you serious? Okay, so a lot of people got the joke. So let me I'm going to move on to the Boring Company in a minute. But I just wanted to check the chat and see what people are saying. I like to respond to the chat when there's a good moment. With Model 3, they started with 30 cars that they hand over back then. With the Model S and X refresh, they started with 25 Model S's or 20 Model S's. Mark Potashnik, Sandy Monroe begging for an early Cybertruck to tear down. He's not getting mine. If you guys want to pay me to give Sandy my Cybertruck, I would think about it. But that's not really what I want to do. Will we have a Cybertruck delivery event? They've certainly said we're going to have a Cybertruck delivery event. I think the expectation is that maybe October, end of October, maybe in November, that, there'll be 20 or 30 Cybertrucks delivered mostly to employees and to a few others. Someone like Marge who got her Plaid S at the Plaid event. There'll be, 5 or so people who are genuine, just regular customers who get them. Quote, regular customers. Nihon no doko ni ikimasu ka? I'm going to be going briefly to Kakagawa, Japan for the Japan Society of Automotive Engineers formula competition where universities build vehicles and I don't want to say race them, but there's a competition. I'm going to Kakagawa first, and then I'm going to be living in Nagoya, Japan for 12 weeks and working on living there longer. I'll be living in Meiki Minami. Jeff Harrison's impressed right now because I read his Japanese language in the chat. I think that Tesla has to build 50 models of Cybertruck for safety testing. I don't know what the number is. I definitely think that they are building Cybertrucks for crash testing. They're building Cybertrucks for testing right now, and they're probably building them to get dialed in on the one hand, how do the vehicles handle, there's a duality, like you want to get your manufacturing process down so you can manufacture in high volume, and you want to get the vehicles of high quality. So you make some changes in how you manufacture, then you got to drive them and see how they perform. And then you probably scrap them, take what you learned from that, and revise the manufacturing. And I think there's a lot of back and forth on that. Conservative Stat Sodomus says, if Model 3 starts production this month, why should they wait selling them? Inventory is almost empty for Model 3. Well, one of the challenges, I think, going back to the Highland thing for a second, one of the challenges with the Highland story is supposedly Shanghai is already building the Model 3 Project Highland, and Fremont hasn't started yet. So there's always this theory that, well, they haven't told us about Highland because they don't want to Osborne the current Model 3s. Well, the Model 3s are basically gone, right? The inventory is basically zero on Model 3 now. And if you do Shanghai first, and then you don't do Fremont at the same time, and then you announce you've got a Project Highland Model 3 with a total refresh in China, no one's going to buy an American-made Model 3. So I don't think that works either. Justin Bartley, have you given up your podcar idea, Warren? No, that's the primary thing I'm going to be working on in Japan is, number one, getting the visa so I can stay longer, but I'm trying to get the visa through the podcar startup. And I'm going to hire engineering students. Ideally, the plan is I'm going to hire engineering students from Japanese universities that are participants in the Formula JSAE competition, there are a subset of the teams that are doing electric vehicles, including Nagoya University, Nagoya Institute of Technology, and Toyohashi University of Technology. I think I've got those names right. I'm going to try to contact those teams and hire students who are building electric vehicles as part of this competition. I think that's a great idea. Oh, great question from Matthew Godtel. Warren, what do you consider Highland versus a minor update? I think, look, the long-range Model 3 came out. The new long-range Model 3 came out. 333 miles of range instead of 358 miles of range. That's a minor update. I mean, it's a pretty significant update that they hadn't had the Model 3 long range on the order page for several months, maybe a year. Then it comes back with less range. But that's not an update that people want. And I would when somebody claims Project Highland's real, like, well, why did they just release this new long range Model 3? And is this Highland? And that's not Highland. So why are they introducing new versions of Model 3? Like, if let's say we don't know what the battery pack is. As far as I know, we don't yet know what the new battery pack is in the new long range Model 3. If the battery pack in the new long-range Model 3 is, let's say, M3P, the new CATL pack with manganese lithium iron phosphate, I don't think it is, by the way, but if it was, well, if you're claiming that that's part of the Highland update, then this should be Highland. I think the challenge, Matthew, for people who claim that Highland is something significant is, you tell me what's the difference, because there's, Model 3's been updated constantly since it began. Will Tom Zhou be in charge of Giga Mexico? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. I don't think so. I think he's in charge of all factories. You hire engineers, you might want to reserve 10% of the stock as options in the case you succeed one day. It helps you keep your best people. So the short term, Jim, is I'm going to hire engineering students to just build prototypes, and I'm going to pay them hourly. This is the plan, right? If I can get a few prototypes built and get to the point where I have a prototype that doesn't suck too bad, then I feel like I have something, and then I can go either do a funding round and try to raise money and ask people who follow me here on YouTube, people who follow me on the Daily Lie, on Patreon, people who are part of my investor email list, and others, hey, I've got a startup. I want to try to raise $2 million, $5 million. And then hire engineers, not engineering students, but hire engineers. Maybe I'd hire the same engineers that were working for me as engineering student interns in the first place. But one of the big advantages of Japan is cost of living is low and salaries are low. So I could hire, in theory at least, I could hire a university graduate, engineering graduate in Japan for like $30,000 a year. In America, that'd be like $80,000 or $100,000 a year. I can hire an experienced engineer from a Japanese company. Let's say Toyota gets stressed by the EV situation, and Nagoya is right next door to Toyota City. I think Toyota City used to be part of Nagoya, but they formed their own city. So let's say some engineers that worked for Toyota or other companies in that area start getting laid off because of the pressure from the growth of EVs. So if that happens, then maybe I can hire senior engineers and they make like 60 or 80 grand. And so I could afford to hire an engineering team, let's say an average of $50,000 a year piece. Let's say it cost me really $75,000 a year piece. So I hire 4 guys. They don't have to be guys. And they're probably going to be guys. $300,000 a year cost is all in. Some other expenses. If I raise, $5 million, that lasts for years. To really iterate on prototypes and get to the point where we have something manufacturable, and then I have plans to go forward from there. So anyway, let me go back to, are Japanese auto manufacturers doomed to failure? I think they are. I think Honda's in deep trouble. I think Mazda, I don't even know if Mazda still exists. I think Nissan's struggling with their electric vehicles. Nissan should be leading, and they're not. I think Toyota's struggling. I mean, Toyota's profitable, but they're struggling. Jim Whitehead says he read that SpaceX will try to go to orbit in Starship in September. Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, certainly looks like August is out. Brian Roshetsky says, I only want the refresh Model 3 to be more expensive because I'm scared for my own resale value. Very selfish thoughts, I know. What really will drive up your resale value is if you have FSD and FSD crosses the threshold. Right? It's not the existence of a new Model 3 that's going to affect the value of your vehicle anywhere near as much. If FSD beta crosses the line and version 12 comes out of beta and you no longer have to pay attention while you're driving the car and you just have to be sitting in the driver's seat ready to take over when the car says, hey, I need you to take over, the value of your car is going to go through the roof. The stock's going to go through the roof. The stock's going to go so high that you're not going to care about the value of your car. That's my take on it. Baby X may go to Mars one day. Yeah. Okay. So let me move on. I want to talk about the Boring Company. So this is something that I feel like has gone. Boring Company and Neuralink have gone under the radar. There's so much attention focused on Tesla and to some extent SpaceX that people are missing some really game-changing things that are happening with the Boring Company with Neuralink. And this is all fairly recent. So Boring Company connected the Las Vegas Convention Center and Encore, which is a resort. You can see the hotel in the background. They're connecting to Westgate. They were initially just had tunnels under the Las Vegas Convention Center. They connected Resort World first. Now they've connected two other. They're getting close to connecting two other resorts, and they're working on the entire Vegas Strip. This is massive. So, and what a lot of people missed. This is back in April. Of course, it's 4/20, April 20, 2022. Boring Company announced the funding round, and I feel like a lot of people missed the story of what's going on with Boring Company. I just want to cover this because I feel like this needs people need a refresher. And even I talked to Walter Isaacson on a space on what was then called Twitter, and he didn't think Boring Company was going to be a big deal. And I think Walter Isaacson missed the story too. And you're going to see it in what I'm about to show you. So number one, they raised $675 million with a variety of venture capital sources. I think Mark Andreessen's fund is in here. Peter Thiel's fund is in here. The PayPal Mafia in general is in here. DFJ, is that Donald? I don't know. Oh, and yeah, anyway, a bunch of these, top VCs are involved in this round. So they raised $6.75 million. Boring Company is now a $6 billion company. This was back in April, right? Boring Company had a $6 billion valuation. So Elon owns 80, 90% of Boring Company. So, this is a growing, and I think this company, just to be clear, I think this company is going to be a $10 trillion company and maybe a $100 trillion company. I'm going to show you why in a minute. But this is the big part of the funding round that I think people missed. So up at the top, ProofRock is a next-generation tunnel boring machine designed to construct mega infrastructure projects in a matter of weeks instead of years and at a fraction of the cost. Let me read that again, okay? Construct mega infrastructure projects in a matter of weeks instead of years and at a fraction of the cost. Okay? That is game-changing thinking right there. This is Elon Musk. This is what people miss. People are used to Tesla. Now Tesla's growing fast, but not as fast as you wanted. What Boring Company is doing is absolutely insane. So the current iteration of ProofRock, called ProofRock 2, is designed to mine at up to 1 mile a week, which is 50 miles a year. Meaning a tunnel the length of the Las Vegas Strip, approximately 4 miles, can be completed in a month. ProofRock 3 is designed to be even faster with the medium-term goal of 1/10 of human walking speed, or 7 miles a day. Now, Will from the Boring Revolution channel thinks that these numbers are impossible. Will is a big believer in the Boring Company, and even he thinks these numbers are impossible. I'm going to say I believe the Boring Company, I believe that when they announce this, they're not full of it. So in the short term, if each ProofRock mines at 1 mile per week and the Boring Company produces one new ProofRock machine per month, then the Boring Company will be introducing 600 miles per year of capacity. As a point of reference, less than 20 miles of underground subway tunnel has been constructed in the United States in the last 20 years. What they are saying is they are going to 600x tunnel boring development in the United States. Like now. Like, it's happening now. Like, I just showed you a picture of 2 different tunnel boring machines, right? These are 2 different tunnel boring machines connecting 2 different resorts. They've got 2. They're building one of these tunnel boring machines a month, roughly. So at the end of a year, you have 12, and they do 600 miles a year of capacity. That's with only 12. And then next year, you build 12 more. And then you get to the new one, the ProofRock 3, which is, the medium-term goal. This isn't even the long-term goal. The medium-term goal of 7 miles a day. 7 miles a day is 50 miles a week. So you go from 50 miles a year to 50 miles a week. So there's some details on the technology here. But I wanted to stress this. I think people are having trouble wrapping their heads around this. If they're able to get anywhere close to 50 miles a week, then forget mega infrastructure projects. You got giga infrastructure projects coming. So an example of it, my favorite example of this that I think people think is batshit crazy, and maybe it is 4 tunnels from Los Angeles to Shanghai, going up north through Alaska, through the Bering Strait, through Russia, and down through China into Shanghai. I know Russia's an issue. I know there's a lot of problems with it. But if you can tunnel 50 miles a week, and you can produce 12 machines a year, and they'll probably ramp up production and produce more of them. It's about 24,000 total miles of tunnel. At $4 million a mile, you're talking about $100 billion, and you've basically replaced all trans-Pacific air travel. Think if you've ever flown to Asia. I flew from New York to Tokyo. 13 hours, ended up being 13 and a half hours because we got diverted a little bit. You've got weather issues, you've got turbulence, you've got all these issues. Now you're doing it in 6 hours in a boring company tunnel where there's no weather issues, there's no turbulence. There's no, the safeties. Airline travel is already extremely safe, but all of a sudden you're even safer. There's no weather delays. It's nuts. And then cargo. Think about all the cargo that's coming from China to the U.S., all the cargo that's transported, and you can imagine runs to, a run after you get to the Asian continent, you would run a line over to Northern Europe, you run a line down to India. There's all kinds of potential for this to just be a total game changer. You run across North America, totally change cargo transportation. You're eliminating the use of nasty diesel, you're eliminating pollution in the ocean, you're eliminating risk, you're eliminating weather problems. Huge changes. Safety Foremost said, wondering what happened to the Chicago project. Is it just on hold? The mayor changed. The previous mayor, Rahm Emanuel, was favorable to Elon and the Boring Company. The new mayor is not. I think that's the holdup. And the reality is that Boring Company didn't get going as quickly as they thought they would. And now that they've got this big project in Vegas, they're going to finish that. They're probably going to do Austin, Texas, and San Antonio, Texas, and a connection between Austin and San Antonio. They're probably, if I was Boring Company, I would do Orlando after Las Vegas because you would hit the two largest convention center cities in America, and that's going to win over a lot of people who come to conventions. Okay, so tunnels just for utility infrastructure. Yes, utility infrastructure. There's so many uses for this, and so I want to get to this point. I can see Boring Company having hundreds of thousands of miles of tunnel, and this simplest way I would approach this problem, I would go to a city and say, hey, listen, we want to build you a tunnel system that's going to solve your traffic problems. We're going to do it at no cost to you. 0 cost, and we'll cut you in on 10% of the revenue. What city is going to say no to that? Imagine if you're Cleveland, and you say no to that, and they go to Cincinnati, and they do it in Cincinnati, and the people in Cleveland go visit Cincinnati, and they say, why the hell don't we have this here? Wait a minute, you said no to this? What kind of idiots are you? You demonstrate a viable plan, a viable system in one place, and everyone's going to want it. You do it in Las Vegas and Orlando and Miami, places where people visit a lot. Everyone's going to want it in their city. Not just that the people are going to want it, but the government officials who go to these conventions are going to say, wait a minute, I don't care about my people, but you're going to shorten my commute by, 75%. Instead of commuting 30 minutes, I'm going to commute in 7 minutes, and it's going to cost me less money. I want this. That's what's going to do it. That's the game changer. Okay, so I'm going to move on really quick. Neuralink announced a funding round. This was this is in the past week. $280 million Series D round led by Founders Fund. That's Peter Thiel's fund. And Scott Nolan I'll show you Scott Nolan. Scott Nolan, partner in the Founders Fund. That's Peter Thiel's fund. Former engineer from SpaceX. Whenever you hear people saying, oh, Elon doesn't know what he's doing, he just hires good people. Well, why would a former SpaceX engineer be pumping money into Elon's companies? He's got Boring Company down there. He's got Neuralink down there. Why would a guy who worked for Elon, if he thought Elon was an idiot and didn't know what he was doing, why would he be, investing in Elon's other companies? Because people who worked with Elon realize Elon's really good at what he does. Peter Thiel, right? Peter Thiel, they were rivals. Peter Thiel ran Elon out of PayPal, but he knows a good investment when he sees one. So the team has been working for 7 years. This is about Neuralink, which is the brain-machine interface. It's a chip that you take out about a quarter-sized chunk of skull. You put this chip in. You put these threads that go into the brain, 3 millimeters into the brain, roughly. Each thread has a whole bunch of electrodes on it that's able to sense brain activity, able to read brain activity, able to send information into the brain. The team has been working for 7 years to make this possible, pulling off technical breakthroughs that feel like science fiction. The chance to work with world-class teams accelerating a positive future is why I'm an investor, and even in that category, Neuralink is special. And they're encouraging people to apply. So this is a big deal. Neuralink is a big deal. And Neuralink, I just said I think Boring Company could be a $10 trillion company or $100 trillion company. Neuralink, what's the total addressable market for Neuralink? You hear this term, total addressable market. The total addressable market for Neuralink is everyone. if you get to the point where Neuralink really, like we've got our phones, right? If Neuralink takes our, basically means we don't even need to hold the phone in our hands anymore, and we have much better communication with the world through a Neuralink, and it's able to help improve our health and do a variety of other things. Game changer. So, what's the market? Well, there's 8 billion people on the planet. There's 8 billion customers, and we upgrade our iPhones every 2 or 3 years. If you upgrade your Neuralink every 3 years, and it costs $10,000, figure 100 million customers a year at $10,000 a year, you just get to insane numbers. And then they upgrade every 3 years. It's just nuts. So, and Elon owns probably 80-90% of Neuralink. So, and I want to mention this, by the way. One of the things that excites me the most about all this is that we're going to go to Mars. And one of the challenges of going to Mars is, I think the most charitable estimate of getting 1 million people to Mars is it's going to cost about $1 trillion to get them there. And it's about $200 billion for the transporting the people. And this is my ballpark estimate. $200 billion for transporting the people at $200,000 a person times 1 million people. I think you get $200 billion. And then you've got to get stuff there for them. So call that another 800 billion. I just made that number up. You get to $1 trillion. I don't think there's a government on the planet that's willing to fund that. There's one customer who will be willing to fund that, who's eager to fund that, and will have the money. Elon Musk. If Neuralink becomes a $10 trillion company and Elon owns 50% of it, there's $5 trillion. If Boring Company becomes a $10 trillion company and Elon owns half of it, there's another $5 trillion. He's got $10 trillion. If Tesla becomes a $10 trillion company, and I think Tesla becomes a $50 trillion company, there's another 5 or 10 trillion for Elon there. SpaceX becomes a multi-trillion dollar company. Starlink is going to be a multi-trillion dollar company alone. Then Elon's going to be able to write the $1 trillion check himself. I think Elon is the customer for building out Mars. So, all right, so we got about 15 minutes left. I'm going to look in the chat again. It has been suggested that bot parts can be used as prosthetics using Neuralink. I think if you really get out there on Neuralink, you say, okay, what if the Neuralink chip, you get enough Neuralink chips and you can actually effectively upload your consciousness to the cloud and then download your consciousness into a bot? It sounds crazy, but is it really crazy? And you could have effectively a version of yourself. Is it really you? Is it not you? I don't know. But if it's functionally you, then maybe it's you. And let's suppose we want to travel not just in the solar system, but we want to travel to other stars. Maybe we have human consciousness embodied in bots, and the human consciousness is turned off during the trip, or maybe it's not turned off, but it'll probably be turned off during the trip. And you fly to another, the travel to another star system is going to take 40 years, 50 years, who knows how long. But what if you had, yourself embodied in a bot, and the bots wake up when you get to the other star system? Crazy ideas like that. Thank you, Michelle. And then I think there's a lot of crazy ideas like that. I mean, that's just one of many crazy ideas. And if you haven't read it, there's a series of books called The Culture by an author named Ian Banks. It's one of Elon Musk's favorite works of fiction. You can see Neuralink, basically the precursor to Neuralink in that science fiction. You can see our artificial intelligence, AGI. Elon renames Mars Musk. No, he's not going to rename it Musk. He doesn't care about his own name. Science fiction proposed uploads and downloads of consciousness that survive the body to give you a kind of eternal life. It's not you, but a robot copy. Well, we don't know whether it's us or not, Jim. And by the way, thank you to the moderators, Jim, Mark, and Mark, in particular, for helping out with the chat. I think the chat is always pretty civil anyway, but I want to thank you guys for supporting it. I'd rather upgrade my consciousness with Elon Musk's or someone smarter than me. Well, no, so the idea is that when you have a Neuralink, effectively you're smarter with this thing than you are without it, because you're able to answer questions quickly. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to turn to another question. Philip asked a question. I like this question, so I'm going to answer it. And Warren, what are good things to see in Tokyo, and how's the dating scene going for you? Tokyo is the largest city in the world. There's so much to see in Tokyo, I don't know where to begin. There's a guy named Shintaro Ando, who's in the Tesla Club of Japan, who drove myself and my daughters around Tokyo. We went to an otter cafe. You don't eat otters. You play with the otters. And chinchilla. Yeah, there's so much. There's just so many crazy things. It's like I don't even know where to begin. There's a tremendous number of things to do in Tokyo. Go to Tokyo, spend a week there. You won't run out of things to do. Food, landmarks, crazy things. Team Lab, Project Team Lab's a really cool thing. How's the dating scene going for you? I just had my third date last night, the first third date in over a year. I like her a lot. I'm not sure the chemistry's there, but I'm going to talk to her about it. But I'm going to Japan and I'm leaving in 11 days. I don't think I can really develop a long-term relationship when I'm going to Japan in 11 days. Um, and then we'll see how dating is in Japan. But I'm not really planning on focusing on dating when I get to Japan. I'm focusing on getting the visa, getting the pod car, starting the network to sort of build, develop connections to where I can start finding workers to work on building pod car prototypes. Get comfortable living there, see how I like living there, develop a routine for living there, go to a gym, go to a co-working space, figure out how I'm going to eat. Am I going to cook for myself? Am I going to go out to eat? I got to figure a lot of things out. How long after Neuralink? Yeah. Bruce Banner says you'll have the option to download your consciousness to a data center in 10 years. I think that one of the concepts in the Culture series was that the neural lace allows you to back up your consciousness. So if you die, your consciousness is reborn in a biological platform or a mechanical platform. I'm not looking at dual citizenship. I'm just going to Japan, get a visa for 6 months to a year. There's a long-term visa I might be eligible for called a highly skilled foreign professional visa. But it's like I got to, this is a step. I live in Melbourne, Florida area right now. I have great friends here. I really like it here. But I want that sense of adventure that I'm not getting here. So, Yuka-chan, there's a lot of hot YouTube channels, sure. What does chemistry have to do with making kids? I think you have to, I don't know. I think you need the chemistry. I think it's helpful. How long will you live in Japan? So the short-term plan is I'm going for 12 weeks, well, 13 weeks, roughly. Work on getting a visa so that I can go for longer, and the visa would be 6 months to a year that I'm looking at. And assuming that goes well, then the next visa would probably be the highly skilled foreign professional visa, which is a 5-year visa. And if I like it, if everything's going well, if everything's going the way I want it to, then I think I'd probably live the rest of my life. How did I find my current date on Bumble? Nice person, really like her. Like really great on paper. Now you got to find the chemistry. Imagine Warren dressed as No Face from Spirited Away. So there's a place in Nagoya called Ghibli Park, and they have a whole bunch of things from Studio Ghibli, which is a Japanese animation studio that has made some of the best Japanese animated films. And we went there on our recent trip, and we did spend some time with No Face. We didn't dress as No Face, but we spent time with No Face. Japanese women like to date American men in clubs. I think some Japanese women like to date American men. I see all kinds of stuff like that on the YouTube videos. We'll see whether it materializes in reality. By the way, in about 5 minutes, I'm going to stop this live stream. We're going to shift over to the Daily Lie, which is the link is in the top of the chat. It's warrenredlick.locals.com. We're going to talk about Joe Biden, the presidential election. I don't think that's going to be a long one. I think it's going to be 10 or 15 minutes or so, but that's coming. Just be a sugar daddy. In Japan, it's called papakatsu, and I don't want to be a sugar daddy. I don't think that's a healthy relationship style. I want to be a husband and a father. The news did a special on how more and more men from America are leaving to Asian countries to find love. Made me think of you. I think the people who are leaving to Asian countries are typically going to Thailand or the Philippines. Japan is not one that people are typically going to. I'm going to Japan because I lived in Japan before, because I speak Japanese, because I love the culture, I love the food. And although it's far, it's not as far as the Philippines and Thailand. And I don't know. Will X become profitable? Yes, X will be profitable soon. K-Thai dating? Light dating? What is that? I haven't seen K-Thai dating before. First town on Mars will be named Elon and built with a gate. That's fun. I like that, the Elon gate. That's not bad. How long after Neuralink becomes popular if the government begin to mandating monthly antivirus updates? Yeah, I think the biggest threat to, I've always said this, the biggest threat to Tesla's success, to other Elon company success, and to the success of the economy and humanity is government. Government has always been the biggest threat. Jim Whitehead says that the uploading your consciousness is not you physically. Think of it as your identical twin or son surviving. It can't be you. I don't think we know that, Jim. I don't think we know that it can't be you. I don't think we really understand what we are in the first place. How does medical insurance work when you move to Japan? I haven't figured that out. I'm not too worried about it. I believe that the health insurance system in Japan is better than the one in the US. I have stopped payments on my current insurance plan. I don't seem to be able to cancel it, but I've stopped payments on my current insurance plan because I don't think it's going to cover me there. Thank you, Zeke. I agree with you. X Twitter is now break even soon. It's close to break even, I think. Brian says, I have a friend who left Austin, Texas for Thailand. He loves it. Gorgeous beaches. He now has a girlfriend. Looks so happy. $400 a month for a casita on the beach. I expect to pay about $800 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment in the middle of Nagoya, in a good location in Nagoya. I'm going to be paying about $1,000 a month right now, and that includes, for a small 1-bedroom, that includes everything. So, all right. So we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank, in particular, I want to thank everyone who supports me on the Locals platform as YouTube channel members, on Patreon and Twitter, or X/Twitter subscribers, and anybody who supports me by super chats. Please consider doing a super chat right now to thank me. If you like my videos, please do a super chat or subscribe to the channel, become a channel member, all that. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. I do not make a lot of money at this. I just love the shirts. There's a lot of great shirts at elonbits.com. Make like $100 a month. It's not like it's a big deal. It's just, I think if you like the shirts, and I love the shirts, I wear them all the time. Of course, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. Please share the video with your friends. And then we're heading over to the Locals platform. Please, the number one place to support me is on the Locals platform. That's where I do additional video content. I'm probably going to be doing more on X. I'm already doing a little bit more on X right now, but we'll see. And YouTube revenue's gotten better. I think YouTube's noticed the competition. They've started improving revenue, but YouTube revenue has been down generally for a lot of us. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and please move over to warrenredlick.locals.com if you'd like to watch the next video talking about Joe Biden and the presidential election. Thank you.